All right. How we doing? Got some people in already, which is great. Just let the numbers jump up. Stephanus, what's happening, mate? Just give it a minute or so, get some more people on. Here we go. They're all on, the usual suspects. I love it. Straight away, everyone jumps in. How good's this? Stephanos, Eli, Chris, Bozza, the gang's in. The numbers are up. Let's just cut straight to it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first revamped episode of the Black and White United Show live. It is now called Fan Forum. I've just rebranded it. Let's just have a good crack at it tonight and talk about everything. There is a shitload to discuss. Thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Andreas. As you know, this is an episode of the Fan Forum. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors, New Homes Victoria. Make sure you check them out, and also Hopper Bros Barbecue. Without your support, this channel could not be the way that it is. I just love it when I see every time I log on and bang the comments, Bozza, Mick, T's on. It's just awesome. Guys, so much to get through today. Today's topics: De Goey's out, Moore's out, Checkers is on the watch list. Is West going to finally debut? There's just this a lot to unpack there. Also, we're going to talk about the weather on Saturday. We're going to have like a little mini preview of the game. And then we're going to obviously take your questions and stuff like that. And if we do get enough time towards the end, I will obviously do. I'll put the link up there, and we can go from there. I will mention it later on. Memberships to the channel are available. There's merchandise available. The hoodies are over there. As you can see, they're still available. And feel free to drop a super chat in the chat as well. Everything helps out. And yeah, we're much appreciated. I thought something different tonight. I'll chuck on a vintage game, Collingwood versus Adelaide at Football Park back in 2003, the game that Taz kicked the goal after the siren. It's on the back there. Who cares? I'm talking. Let's just get straight to it. Thank you so much for joining. We're ready. There's a few questions and there's a few statements in the chat, which I'll get to in a second. But the first thing that I want to talk about is obviously our outs this week. They're massive. So I don't mind the whole thing that Craig McRae's doing in regards to the, managing players and the way that he's talking about it and stuff like that. We can't really complain as supporters, tell us the truth about De Goey, tell us the truth about this type of stuff, what's happening. Because at the end of the day, as I said in my review of the Fremantle game, he is playing chess. He knows what he's doing. He's moving the magnets around. He's not going to give out everything and turn around and say, oh, yeah, De Goey's screwed for the next 4 weeks, which he might be. We don't know. We don't know what's going on with that. You know what I mean? They're saying groin and like back of the knee, calf sort of soreness and stuff like that, whatever. If that means you have to manage him now and wait a little while to bring him back in, that's fine, because that is going to lead to my big call, which I do on my lives, brought to you by Hopper Bros Barbecue. I'm going to give you my big call at the end of this live, and I reckon a few of you might actually agree with it. But anyway, let's just cut straight to it. I don't have a mouse today, which is unfortunate. I'm on a new laptop, so we'll just see how we go. We've got Chris has said Moore, Schultz, and De Goey. Well, Schultz has obviously got the concussion, so we know that he's obviously going to be out for a week. And I do have word from inside the club, from a mate of mine who's heavily involved in the club, that Schultz has recovered quite well, and it should only be just the 1 week that he's out. So he should be back for the game against North Melbourne, which we're probably going to need him to, because they actually had played quite decent against Brisbane, which was actually good to see. Nate's on. How are you, mates? And I believe there is light rain, which will favour us. So straight away, let's just get straight into the weather for the weekend. I will do a bit of a little mini preview later on. But with that being said, we are expecting some light rain on Saturday. There is going to be some rain also on Friday in the later afternoon. So the ground's going to be wet, which I think suits us really well, which we'll get into a bit later on. So we're talking now, like, what would the team look like at selection this week? Well, obviously we know De Goey's out, Moore's out, and Checkers, to be honest with you, I probably reckon they'll rest him for another week to get him ready, sort of like leading up into that mid part of the season. Like I said, we're going to be attacking this sort of next period in 4-game blocks. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I think this is the game, regardless of the weather, this is the game that you have to debut Charlie West if he's ready to go. we need that extra strength in the forward line. Even though our forward line's doing really well, our defense is probably holding us up a bit more than our forward line at the moment. But just with the accuracy and kicking and all that stuff, which I spoke about last week, I think it's time that we get a guy in, regardless of his age, who is very consistent in front of goal and is going to be pretty much a dead-eye dick when you need it. And I think it's time for Charlie West to obviously now make his debut. That being said, obviously, if his foot is 100%. Mello's like, does Dean play now that thing's out? I don't know, but this gives a mad opportunity for players like Jacob Bryan and also TJ. TJ played really well in the twos, so I think he's probably more of a chance to break in than Charlie Dean. But I think it's also another game where Markov will probably hold his spot. Also, James is on. How are you, mates? And also, who we got here? James donated $2.99 to the channel. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. That's awesome. Every support of the channel helps, guys. Like that's great. Put Degoe on a running block for weeks to build his stamina. This is the thing, and this is what frustrates me the most. During the preseason with Jordan Degoe, right? During the preseason, I went to a couple of training sessions, and I actually did a vlog on one of them. If you want to scroll all the way back to, I reckon it might have been February or even January. I think it was the first training session back. He looked lean. He didn't train with the main group. Obviously, he came back from Dubai. He did some training there or whatever. But he looked lean and he looked fit and he was running fast. He was just sprinting laps. And I'm thinking to myself, Jesus Christ, imagine if you've got Degoe now and he's super fit, he's lean, and he's still got all the bursts of speed. He's still got that bullish energy and stuff like that. We just haven't seen it. Every year, there is something going on. And if you've noticed that, I mean, some of it's to his own discretion, but every year he's had a mini preseason in the middle of the season, and he's come back though towards the end of the season quite fit. Last year was a bit of a stuff up because he pulled his hammy against Carlton, and they ended up resting him for the rest of the season, which was unfortunate. I still think if we had a made finals, they probably would have prepped him for that, but it is what it is. So we'll have to see how he goes with that one there. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about quickly is who sort of replaces these players. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I think TJ comes in. I think, or he's pushing. If Checkers doesn't play, then obviously Charlie West goes in. In regards to the midfield and also with Lockie Schultz being out, I think obviously then Pendlebury sort of comes back in, and then you move the magnets around and stuff, and you see what happens then. So there's a few changes that are going to happen this week, but the good part about everything is, regardless if there's changes, we've got players that are coming back into the side that obviously have experience, premiership players, whatever. So there's not really going to be much of I don't think it's going to be much of a loss. I mean, you saw last week, like, we had to really test our depth with these players that were, coming into the side. But with that being said, Ed Allen did the job that he needed to do. Sullivan is going to be very stiff to get to be dropped out of the side, and I really want to hear what you guys think about that, because that mark he took, that one-handed mark he took, was so important to obviously that part of the game. So it's hard to actually gauge if you want to take him out. Is there a like for like? But with Degoe being out, Sullivan sort of is that player that you sort of need in there. Obviously not to his level, but Sullivan's performed this year. When he's come in, he's performed. So you don't really want to, take him out. So Matty's in the chat. How are you, mate? Oh, I haven't got a mouse. Sorry, guys. Yep, take it easy, Jordy, before his Achilles snaps. Well, that's the thing. I would personally rest him for this game coming up. I'd rest him probably for the North Melbourne game, and then see how he pulls up ready for Hawthorn. And then if not, just let him go all the way through to the bye. I mean, at the end of the day, this is how I see it. We play so much of the season without Jordan Degoe, where we work, we do all the labour stuff, we do everything without him. When we've got him and he's ready to go, it's sort of becoming like a luxury, like a secret weapon, if that makes sense. Do you guys feel the same way? I would rather just wait, get him 100%, and then attack that part of the next block of the season when we play against West Coast, Richmond and stuff, because you've got to think also too, we're going to play against West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda. We're going to play against these sides, which, isn't the likes of your Geelong, GWS, Brisbane, etc., okay, where we can get him in there and they can sort of without sounding cocky, play him into form a little bit. So it's going to be really interesting how we go with that. Chris, I think Bruz for more check. Oh, yeah, Bruzzy was out too, so Bruz will come in as well. That's a good point. I actually forgot about that. Checkers for Schultz and Pendles for Allen. I think they play small depending on the weather. That's pretty much spot on, I reckon. I reckon you're not far off with that one there. But I still think Charlie West is a chance to come in. Sullivan was so good last week. As I said, he just did things at the times where it mattered the most. T has said, honestly, rest Jordan to go till after the bye. I'm sort of leaning towards that as well. I think that's probably something that we should really seriously consider. Manny says, if Checkers is out, it's time for West Crows defenders, small bodies can do okay. Look, Manny, I know that you've been saying this for God knows how long to debut him at the MCG, and you're going to probably come close to getting exactly what you wanted. I do think that regardless, they were going to debut him against Fremantle, but they just weren't 100%. But what I find strange is the fact that they were able to send to bring him over to travel, and obviously they were going to keep him as an emergency, as a backup, just in case something happened. But why would you make him travel and then bring him back home to then play a couple of days later? Like, was he that touch and go? Was it more or less like, if something happens, then you're in sort of thing? So just be on standby. I just don't get what was the point in making him travel. I would have personally brought someone like a TJ or a Jacob Ryan to come in, or even like a Will Parker or something like that as a backup, instead of someone who's still under that injury cloud. But you're going to get it either this week or potentially against North Melbourne at Marvel. Stephanos, yes, time for West. I think so too. And we've got here Black Docs. Welcome to the channel. This is your first comment. I think West as a sub, potentially. But I do think, though, if Checkers is out, you probably want West to start even on the bench and work his way in. I don't know if he'll be a sub. I personally think Will Hoskin-Elliott is the perfect sub for the Adelaide game, just because you can play him in each line. The only position that he can't play is ruck. He can play anywhere on the ground. So against Adelaide, which is going to be a really tough opposition, you probably want to keep him there. So we'll see how we go. Maybe Oleg or Allen potentially, but I think it's time that we give Leggy a decent go and just manage his minutes off the bench. But at the same time, he could be a sub as well. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think they'll take Sidebottom out, because they obviously managed his minutes and stuff against Freo, and he's had that longer break now. So I think that's his management there also done. What was the next thing I was going to talk about? I will play the best available in the rest next week. Yeah, there's that too. I mean, we could play our. I'd still play our best team regardless for the Adelaide game. But then I would definitely think about the North Melbourne game and talk about how we're going to be able to manage the players for that game. Because looking at the way that North Melbourne played against Brisbane, I don't think it's going to be that easy walk in the park sort of game where we can just cruise along and see what happens from there. I think it's going to be a fairly difficult game against North. I think they're going to challenge us quite well. So it's still going to be interesting to see what they do. I want to get you guys' thoughts on that. Do you just continue to try and manage it until the bye, or do you just push along and play your best team going forward the whole way? It's going to be interesting, like how they're going to manage it. Bozza says here, I wouldn't take North Melbourne lightly. No, I wouldn't either. But at the same time, we didn't take them lightly last year, and I think we did take them lightly last year, and they ended up slapping us. So, and then we had to come back quite late in the game, which was, not really ideal in that sense. So, but yeah, let's just go. I also want to sort of go back on the Freo game itself. And, I did my review for the Freo game, and I was really impressed with the way the boys played. I know we all were. It reminded me so much of the game against West Coast in that 2020 elimination final, and the way that they played there. Just backs against the wall sort of thing. Obviously different sort of set of circumstances and everything, but just the way that they performed, and every single time that we were challenged as a team, we were able to obviously respond accordingly to the challenge that was being thrown at the time. So at the start of the game, the first 12 minutes of the game, we barely got our hands on the ball against Freo. They were just all game. They absolutely smashed us out of the middle, right? And you just think to yourself, how can we go from playing so well at times against Geelong and even the week before, and against Freo, seeing what they did against St Kilda, we can't get our hands on the ball. We can't do what we need to do. And it was frustrating. And I think at the times, through the first quarter, especially when we couldn't get our hands on it, that was probably the only time of the whole game I was a little bit worried, thinking, oh, God, hang on a second, they're going to test us here. Once we got our hands on the ball and stuff like that, straight away, it was like the feeling changed. And it was like, all we need to do is get ourselves in front. If we get ourselves in front, we're going to be okay. Then they're not going to catch us. And we did. And they were able to obviously catch us at times and stuff like that too, which was good for us to actually challenge us and see how deep we can go in that time, which I thought was quite well. I thought we handled it quite well. And the good part too is that we saw players like Nick Dacos not get too much of the ball. Obviously he was being tackled, so he was being tagged, and Jesus Christ, he was being held in every contest, every single contest that you saw. And obviously as Collingwood supporters, we sort of noticed this stuff more than other supporters would. Geelong would have noticed how much Selwood probably would have been held, and Carlton supporters will notice how much Cripps would be held in stuff. Dacos was being held and blocked in every single contest, and it was to the point where I was about to throw the remote at the TV. I was like, how can the umpires not see this? We'll get into the rest of the umpiring decisions and stuff like that a little bit later, but moving on with that Freo game, as it went on, I found that our delivery into the forward line obviously got a lot better as the time went on. But what for me was the best thing that I saw was Darcy Cameron, when he went back, the intercept marking in defence, because Howe looked a little bit caught out at times. He played okay, but he looked like he got a little bit caught out at times. I thought Billy Frampton, and I've said this since he came into the side, since halftime of the game against Carlton, from that third quarter onwards, he has not missed a step. He has been so good. I think he's at the whole time, his disposal efficiency is over 80%. One of the games it was against, who was it against? One of the games that we played, he had 100% disposal efficiency, which was crazy for a defender and someone like him too. So obviously as the game went on, I felt that we obviously had control of most of it, but it was just, what pissed me off the most was that Freo were able to just chip away and sort of get close. And even when we got 20 points up, it was a carbon copy of the Geelong game. I'm like, this is where we're going to finish teams. Now, we're able to kick goals on the boundary. Elliott's able to kick a couple of crackers. Bobby Hill's able to kick, that really good one where he took the mark on the half forward line and he kicked it and it went straight through on the other side of the camera. That's all great. But when we're pushing Fremantle right back in defence and they then decide to kick it across goal, which you never do, you get taught that in under-9s footy, they decide to kick it across goal and Bobby Hill's able to intercept mark it 35 metres out directly in front. You've got to put them away, man. Because if you kick that and you put them away, that deflates them. They'll be walking back to the middle and they'll be like, oh, this game's finished. We're just going to try and not get injured. We're just going to try to see it out, blah, blah, blah. That's something that we really need to try and work on, because it cost us the game against Geelong when Sidebottom and Myercheck missed those goals. And not saying it cost us the game against Fremantle, but at the end of the day, we only won by 14 points. Now, if you look at the game against Carlton, we won by 17 points and we left that game thinking, fuck, we dominated that game. We should have won by 60 points. Yet we beat Freo, who got slapped by St Kilda last week by 14 points. And it felt like a ballsy win. It felt like a 10-goal win, like we smashed them. But at the end of the day, it's just the situation that we were dealt with. So all in all, umpiring decisions in this game, I just shared on my Instagram that CCS shared as well, the umpire audio to Lockie Schultz getting knocked out, and they just let it go, which I think was really disappointing. So that was actually quite sad to see that they didn't stop the game. Then there was obviously that tackle also where Membry's tackled Pierce, and he's just put the ball down on the ground and then picked it up and hand passed it. And you think to yourself, how can you not pay that free kick? Like, how can you not pay that holding the ball? It's just so, like, I'm dumbfounded to see, like, just the basic rules of the game are being thrown out the window. Now, I'm going to bring it up because even though it's not technically Collingwood related as such, but you want to go back to the game against Geelong where Bobby Hill did that tackle and it was paid a trip, right? Now, I've watched the replay. I've watched the incident a few times. I've taken my biased hat off. It's probably a 50-50 call, really, if you think about it. But what makes me think it's more holding the ball than anything is the fact that when he was tackled and the ball came out before Bobby Hill, obviously the momentum went down to his ankles. So it's holding the ball. It's a clean tackle, no matter what, yeah? The same thing with then the Sicily Rioli one, just, not even 24 hours later. That was paid holding the ball, and it was the exact same free kick, right? And I'm thinking it's the exact same tackle, and I'm just like, are you for real? What's the difference? But then you go to the game Hawthorn-Melbourne this week, and you see the Cozzy Pickett trip, and I just think to myself, how on earth, from a football perspective, you have 40,000 people at that game, right? 40-something thousand people at that game. And everybody, including the Hawthorn supporters, would have conceded that was a clear, out-and-out trip. I don't understand how you can't pay that. I don't understand how that isn't a clear-as-day free kick, right? Everybody could. So you got 4 umpires in the field. How is that not given? So it's just, I don't know. But the umpiring this year is, it makes me think, like, during the finals times every year, regardless of how crap the umpire's been, it hasn't been this crap, but they usually tend to throw the whistle away in the finals, and they just sort of let it go. But you're giving us then like a false sense of hope sort of for the finals. So I don't know. But all in all, the way that we played against Freo was fantastic. That last quarter was, just the way we're able to hold on. It was just a ballsy win. And the fact that someone like Nick Dacos didn't dominate and get 30-something disposals and kick 3 goals and do his usual thing just showed how deep our side is this year. So we'll go into some comments. Laura Kane said the umpire stuffed up regarding the Shields incident. No shit, Sherlock. Like, it's just stupid. Andreas, who do you think the Poles will take in the mid-season draft? Any whispers? I still think we're going to go for a defender. So that McCartan, the third McCartan brother, I think is the one that they're looking at as another intercept defender. But I don't know how bad we need it now, seeing the way that we're playing. So I think it's probably going to be the best available at the time. But we'll have to obviously see how that goes. But I'm not really sure. Just McCartan was the last one. There is talk about obviously Kruger coming back to see if he's available, and then we'll pick him up. But yeah, I'm not sure if they'll do that at the moment. Is it worth keeping Cripps in the midfield? 100%. Hopefully Riley Mason. Look, that'd be great too, but I don't think he's going to be available by the time we get him. I think he'll probably go to like a Richmond or a Melbourne or someone like that. I think they'll probably be looking, because Melbourne need a big forward too, and he would fit so good into their forward line next to Van Rooyen, and it'll probably help out Bailey Fritsch as well. Word is, I've heard that Riley Mason will go before our pick. He certainly will, as I just said. Oh, Mick Sacker's in. What's happening, mate? All the dumb umps have to do is give Nick a couple of frees early and hold him the stops. It's just common sense, mate. Unfortunately, common sense is the most expensive thing in the world these days. We were here. Stuart says play Nick Dacos forward, harder to tag there, and holding a bit more obvious, and holding jumper frees are given there as well. Look, I think that's not a bad point. If our midfield was stacked, Nick is someone that could definitely rest up forward on the half forward line instead of going down half back like he did when he started at Collingwood. I do see that potentially coming into his game a little bit more. Probably not at the moment, but if we were to get everybody back, and like, let's just say, for example, Jordan De Goey is not ready yet to come in, and then Tom Mitchell's ready to come in, you could see that sort of change happen. And just on that too, I do think there is a world where you can play Ned Long and Tom Mitchell in the same team, just dependent on if there's any other players missing at the time. So not 15 play on. The fact they played on the ball to Sicily not Hill is what's frustrating. Yeah, I know. But it's the exact same free kick, which is the most frustrating part. Hey, mate, if you look at the Bobby Hill tackle, it was above the knees, definitely holding the ball. Those umpires love to get involved when they shouldn't in a game and hate the pies. The problem was one umpire actually paid holding the ball and the other one paid a trip. If you watch it properly, one umpire did it, which is really frustrating. Most of the umps had never played the game and they got no idea. Gary Lyon made a really good point on 360 yesterday. They were talking about obviously the umpires, umpires going full time and stuff like that. So not on 360. He said that on 360, but he said it on SEN, I believe, with Tim Watson. He was saying that there should be more. Like if the umpires do go full time, there should be more of an incentive for a past player to become an umpire. Because then what you're doing is if umpires go full time, you're going to be paying them over $400K a year, right? That's just what the ratio is of what they should be paid if they go full time. Because I think at the moment now the max is like $200K a year, and it's not full time. It's a pretty decent part time job, but you still can't get it right. But if they were to go full time, let's just say they got $500K a year. Let's just say a player retires through injury or he's a bit older, whatever, gets delisted, wants to stay in the game, doesn't necessarily want to go into the coaching part, and he goes into doing, umpiring. That's a really good incentive to say, hey, you're still going to get paid a similar amount of money. You're on the big bucks. You know what the rules are as a player. Why not you go into it? I think there needs to be more of a pathway for players to go into umpiring at the elite level straight away, because I think that would be like, hang on a second, as a player, I know this rule and we can work on it. And so I'm not talking about the concussion stuff. Forget about that stuff. The AFL's wrecked that. It's more or less in the sense of like the holding the ball tackles, the deliberate out of bounds, the trip, all that type of stuff. I thought that was such a good point to make, that they should do it. We've got one here from Brendan. He goes, does Charlie Dean play for more? I think Bruzzy comes in, so maybe not Charlie Dean. So we'll have to see and go from there. So I haven't got my mouse today, which is a bit unfortunate. So I don't know where it's gone. They've got a new laptop. I'm going to try and connect it and stuff. So we've got here Michael Gary Pies of their eye on a player that's played in the VFL on Saturday. Just gone Rob Eli 81. I have heard that. I'm sort of keeping that on the download for now until I get more news out of it. Agree, umpires need to go onto the full-time payroll. Only way they'll improve and be consistent. It's just a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer that you don't see bullshit like, calls and stuff like that we have. Former players will make better umps, better feel for the game, 100%. Manny's gone. Eleni Glyphis has been the best ump all year, and she's a woman. I don't think she's stuffed up at all, to be honest. I don't think she's made a call that's actually been like, oh my God, what the hell was that? So credit to her. No Regret says, with all the umpires on the field, they still can't get a call right, tripping and a throw at the same time. Just a bunch of malakas. So that's the thing too. And it hasn't been spoken about because obviously the trip was so, like, I know this is not Collingwood related, but we're just talking about umpires in general. But the trip was so bad that it took away the actual incident where Sicily got the ball and threw it to himself around the post, just like Higgins did when he scored that bullshit goal of the year against us. So what was it, in like 2018 or some shit like that? So just absolute crap. So I'll give a mini preview to the Adelaide game now before we jump into some more comments and stuff. So Adelaide compared to where they were this time last year, I watched a few of their games and I watched a fair bit of the showdown. They are a very quick takeoff team. So they're not doing the whole too much of like the chipping the ball around and stuff like that. They like to take the game on, regardless if it's on the wings, if it's in the middle or wherever. I find that if we're able with this one here, I don't want it to sound too cliche, but our defense will hold up against their forwards, no problem. If our mids can double back as well as go forward as quick as theirs can, then we have no problem in defeating them on the weekend. They're going to be really difficult to manage, obviously, in our forward line. I think they're going to be able to really bring the ball out quite well against us. They love to get a lot of numbers around the pack. And what I've noticed with Adelaide is, and this is just because I'm a bit of a footy nerd, when they set up around the stoppage, let's see if I can draw it here, you'll notice if the ball's being bounced here, right, in the middle, they tend to form, you can't see because of the light, but they tend to form in like a cross like this every single time they go into a stoppage. They have that set up like clockwork. We call it clockwork in football, yeah? So you've got your 12, your 3, your 6, and your 9. And wherever they go, then they've got their halfbacks and their half forwards and their wingmans obviously pushing straight in too. So they're getting a lot of numbers around the pack. We tend to spread out a little bit more and don't crowd the play. So both sets of styles are going to work really well against each other. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. I do think, though, regardless, if Nick's okay to play, and I know there was the pec sort of injury cloud and stuff like that on him, I think this is where Nick sort of turns away with this game, the two-way running and stuff, and just completely owns it. I also think Ned Long's got this game covered. Like I say every week, I want to see players like Quainer and McCreary and stuff like that, but I just feel the game against Adelaide has got Ned Long in the middle, just crashing through the pack and just really busting it open and allowing players like Nick, Josh, and even Pendles and Sai to just spread and do their thing quite well. So I think the game's obviously going to be run around the stoppages and the number of players into the contest. Delivering to the forward line is a big thing. I thought it was a lot better against Fremantle. It wasn't so much like Geelong where it was kick and hope, and then they had their two tall defenders taking intercept marks on us every single time. That was really frustrating when we were playing against Geelong. We didn't do that too much against Fremantle, and even if we did, you couldn't notice it because they weren't really intercepting our marks and stuff like that. We were doing it to them in their back line. So, again, I'm going to say it. I say it every single week. The Cox-Cameron combination. I know Mason Cox kicked the goal. He, at the start of the game, had a bit of butterfingers. It was a little bit frustrating, but the fact that he's still able to compete and bring the ball to ground and then allow Darcy Cameron to do his thing and allow Darcy Cameron to now be one of the best intercept defenders in the competition as well as a ruckman is just, it's staggering. And he's probably not like stat-wise, but from what we can see, like he's just so reliable in that there. So the Cox-Cameron combination at the moment, I think, is working. I would like Cox to obviously give a little bit more, but the fact that he's still able to do his job and bring the ball down to ground, draw out a main defender when he goes up forward is fantastic. So my preview, my tips for this game here, I am confident against Adelaide. I'm tipping Collingwood by 13 points. I think the weather's going to bring a little bit of, that slow sort of contested play together, and it's going to suit Adelaide's style. I think we'll handle it better, but I think it will suit them style. So I'm going to tip Collingwood by about 13 points for this game here. So I'll get to your comments now for this one. Thoughts on the forward line with West, Checkers and Membry and drop Cox. I keep Cox in. I'd probably just swap Checkers and West. If Checkers is okay to go, West has to buy his time. That's another thing too. I know we want to see West play regardless, but if everything's okay, he may just have to sit on the pine and just wait a little bit longer for his shot. And there's no issue with that whatsoever. Next comment we've got here, probably going to rain Cox plays or another midfielder. No, I think we bring in Pendles anyway, so I think Cox should stay in the side for this game. I think it'll work well against Adelaide because I forgot mental blank there, Ruckman, the redhead, he's quite good. Would you play Tom Mitchell off half forward to fit him in? Potentially, but I still think his best attributes is obviously in the middle. When Titch is ready, he'll replace Lipinski or Abo if they have an off game. Not Lipinski. I think we're being too hard on Lipinski. When Lipinski plays good, he's one of our best players, and he's so underrated. When he has one off game, we're quick to just smash him. But I think it's more likely Bo would be the one who would be looked at before Lipinski. But with that being said, Bo had moments against Fremantle, that chase down tackle, some of his work on the wing, like gutsy running and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very hard to drop him, even if he's not performing at 100%, unfortunately. If it rains Saturday, I believe Crows will be top heavy. They have been found out in the wet already. I still think he played two ruckmen against them, though, regardless. Watch clock stretch the defenders, and Cameron will cover their forwards when he rolls back. 100%. 100% correct. Stephanus must play 2 rucks against the Crows. We have to. They've got some big bodies in there too. Don't forget, Tex is still there as well. So, and he's not anything small or anything like that too. So, Cameron should fill the gap in front of Fogarty and Tilthorpe. Yes, but I also think when the ball's high and we've exposed them, that's when someone like a Billy Frampton will just be able to come in and do his thing. And we've seen what Billy's been able to do over the past, 6 weeks, 6 games or whatever. So, yeah. Nathan said Lipper is a new whipping boy. Poor bloke. He is a bit. I mean, if you want to talk whipping boys, Lipper copped it just before the grand final, and rightly so. He was dropping a bit of form. Obviously, Ginnivan copped it a fair bit when he was with us. McStay's copped it a few times here and there. I mean, Jamie Elliott takes all the load sometimes, and if he doesn't kick a goal for 2 weeks, all of a sudden it's you need to retire. Blah blah blah. There's been a few of them. There's been a few, and I think it's time someone like a Quainer and a Bo became the new whipping boys soon, because there's so much potential there. They really need to lift. Although Quainer, does his thing when he needs to as well. But we want Wombats who get the ball, not watch it. I get that, but you've also got Ned Long in there too. Imagine. I think I was one of the ones that used to give it to him a fair bit. And then when he kicked the goal, I was like, but you wonder who was a whipping boy last season? Schultz was a whipping boy last season. He was a big whipping boy last season. And one last comment here. I've got to make sure we kick straight and put scoreboard pressure on the Crows. If we can put the scoreboard pressure on them early, that'd be so relieving, because the last few games I've noticed that we've actually teams have put the scoreboard pressure on us, and we're playing catch-up footy, and then you're getting tired towards the end of the game, and ultimately that's what cost us against Geelong. That first 10 minutes, that first quarter, playing the catch-up and then beating them for most of the game, and then just running out of legs. Against Freo, we had to really dig deep, and it'd just be nice if we can just hit the scoreboard pressure on them early. Can you imagine if it was a game like against Port Adelaide? They're just relaxing, chilly afternoon at the G, 1:20 start, and we do that. That'd be nice. Not going to happen. Adelaide's a lot better. Have to pinch hit Bell in the middle. His speed's unrivaled, not all the time, just once or twice a quarter. 100%. Nathan's got thoughts on Houston. Will he fire up against the old enemy? Well, part of my big call, which is brought to you by the Hopper Bros Barbecue, is about Houston. So I'll get to that in about 15 minutes. What I am going to do, though, guys, is I'm going to get one of yous on. I'm going to post the link in the chat now. And we'll see how we go here. See if I can get this going. So the link is in the chat if you want to jump on. I'll get someone on quickly, and then I'll do my big call. So my call for the game, mini preview of the game, is the Pies to win by 13 points against Adelaide. But it'd be interesting to see what happens this game. Just the 4 block games are the ones that you really that's how I sort of look at it. Those 4 blocks. And, I think if we're able to win 3 out of the 4, then it's going to be massive. But the thing that gets me in this game in particular is, with the way that Adelaide's placed in the ladder in 5th, this essentially becomes an 8-point game. So it's not a game that we can afford to lose, especially the fact that we're able to get up against Freo. Right? It would have been a lot handy if I'm not Collingwood playing, but it would have been a lot better if obviously we had won against Geelong, or if Port Adelaide had beat Adelaide, But with that being said now, Adelaide are 5th. If we win, we are 2 games plus percentage clear in the top 4. So I think that's massive for us. I think that's just something that we need to really sort of think about how important this test is against Adelaide. So guys, feel free to click the link, jump on. I'll give it another couple of minutes, and then we can, and then I'll get someone on. T said Houston will come good like Schultz did. I think he will. Just on that too, you've got to sort of. I think about it where like Schultz had to change systems, and I think like Houston, Perriman, and Membry, they're getting used to a new system, obviously in like their team and stuff and their role within that system. So I think that's obviously something massive that it's going to take time, but it's obviously a massive factor as to why maybe Houston might not be living to everyone's expectations so quickly. So, but I've got a little theory on this, which I'll get to quite soon. So Mick said Houston and Lipper have been battling flu symptoms. Well, there you go. Matt says Pies +4 in a thriller. Oh, another thriller against Adelaide. I mean, if you look at the games, I should have put it on the background now. I don't know why they got Port Adelaide and Hawthorn playing. It's just a rolling thing on YouTube, but I think that was the 2014 prelim. One of the best prelims you could probably see. We got here. They just need to get used to it exactly. As long as we finish top 4, we're a real shot for the whole thing. We'll travel anywhere without any worries. I want top 2. I know we say top 4, but unless Geelong finish first or second, then we get a final in Melbourne. I just want the top 2 because I think the lid for me is okay. Let's just be honest here. For me, the lid is on. The lid is firmly on. It's shut. I'm not sniffing anything. I'm not taking it off. I'm not checking the use by date. Nothing. The lid is on. But I do think, and I know I'm looking ahead here, we've still got to qualify first. But if we are to make it to the granny, I think we'll win it regardless. The hard part's just getting there for us. I think if we're able to get there regardless, that's the main thing. So it's going to be interesting to see. Guys, click the link, jump on. I'd like to see. I want to get someone. I've only got a couple of people on now, but I want to see if there's any more that come on before I chuck someone on. So Stefano says Houston goes berserk and kicks 4 goals from the back line. Fuck, that'd be nice against Adelaide. Really shut everyone up. We stay healthy, we rest, we qualify, we win the cup. that should go on a t-shirt, really. We've got here, no thriller, please, just a comfortable win, please. Like, how many times do we need to have these like close contests and stuff like that? And against Adelaide, we always have them. All right, who we got here? Matty's in. Let's get him on. Matty, can you hear me, bro?
Oh, bro, what are you doing, buddy?
Oh, just doing my usual thing, mate. On a Tuesday night. What's happening?
Hey, did you get the thing for your missus that Malaka Anthony said to say? Were you listening, or was he talking shit?
No, it's all good, mate. It was all good. It was just a bit of banter. It was actually quite good. All good.
I should let you watch the footy.
Pardon?
Should let you watch the game?
Which game? The Collingwood game?
Yeah, your missus last week.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, bro.
Oh, no worries. I thought Malaka Anthony was saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna let you watch the game." He's fucking G me up, you dickhead.
No. It's just
what's happening, bro?
I spend too much time on the computer. That's all. Oh,
I heard Keys on. I heard Keys on. Keezy on April 360 there, and don't worry, he knows, mate, how big this task is for them. They want to come over and hammer us, right? Make an example or prove a point, mate. They're delusional. I reckon we're going to thump them. I reckon we're going to give it to them 40, 50 points.
Look, I don't know if it's going to be a 40 or 50 point win because of like the way the ground's going to be pretty wet. So it's going to be a bit more of a slower game. So skills and stuff like that are going to have to be like on point. But with that being said, if we play our system properly against them, we should win quite convincingly. The only thing that leaves me with a little bit of doubt here and there is the fact that they've played so many good games, tight games against us recently. Now, if you look at the games that we've played against them in the past, that's all fine.
Yeah,
but we're also a better team now. We've got a better list
Exactly.
happening now. So I think
Exactly.
there might be a little bit of there's probably a little bit more favouring us. If the game was in Adelaide, I'd be worried. Even though we play well there, I'd still be a little bit like, I don't know, backing it up after Fremantle. But the fact that it's at Melbourne, and I think the boys are frothing to come down here, I reckon we've probably got a little bit more of an advantage now. So yeah,
I reckon they're going to be deflate. They're going to be on a letdown from the showdown. The showdown was such a big pump up for them, right? I reckon they're going to be flat. You watch. I reckon they're going to be flat at the start. First 1.5 quarters. I reckon they're going to be flat. We're going to run all over them.
I'd hope so. I'd like to think that that'd be.
And Frampton has to body. He has to body Thilthorpe. He can't let him run and jump at the ball. He needs to put body on him and check him and get and stop him from running and jumping. That's how he's kicking his goals.
So Chris has got here. What was that?
Go. Say it.
Chris says here, what do you think the attendance will be this Saturday?
65, 70 should be.
I was going to say 70. I reckon 7. I think the fact that we've had 2 games away, not 2 games that we had.
You mentioned that as well. You mentioned that as well. You mentioned Keys. You mentioned that as well. It's a hostile environment. So the supporters have to make noise.
Yeah, I think we'll probably hit close to 70K on there. Manny, I've got a few more in the chat, so I'm gonna let you go.
Get them on.
Thank you so much for joining, bro. I appreciate it. Cheers, you too. We've got one more here. Kev, we'll get you jump on. Kev, can you hear me, mate?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. How's things?
Hi, good. Yeah, good, man. Good. I'm confident we'll win. I think it's going to be another close game. 5 of the last 6 has been close. But even before that, we've had some close games against Adelaide where we've won them, they've won it. Semi-final 2009, we were 30 points down. We came back and won that. So, yeah, for some reason, we tend to play well against them, and they haven't been us since 2016. So that's a long time for them to not beat us. So we always tend to have the wood over them.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we go this game, particularly against them. But I'm looking forward to seeing how we go man up, especially in our forward line with their defenders. Because if we can get the ball into our forward line quite well, I think it's going to be a really big advantage for us. So that'll be something that we really need to sort of concentrate on, and especially the fact that it's sort of an 8-point game now because we can lock ourselves into the top 4. Who do you reckon will be man of the match in this game, Kev?
So many. Josh Dacos, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll run a mock across half-back. And maybe Nick Dacos. It depends on what we do with him. He did train on Monday, so he was doing some light work. So they're probably managing, obviously, yesterday, and they might in the big session. If he's ready to go, then he'll probably play. But I definitely do think Josh Dacos, because if they weren't about Nick, then you got Ned Long, you got Crisp, you got Josh Dacos, Isaac Quainer, Perriman, Houston. So there's a lot of guys that can actually step up when Nick Dacos gets tagged, and I think it's good because therefore the narrative was, oh, you rely on Nick Dacos, who else is going to step up? Well, it just proves that Crispy had a great game against the Dockers. You had Ned Long doing well. A few of the other guys that were a bit down, but normally they actually stand up and perform well. So, yeah.
100%. Kev, thank you so much for jumping on. I appreciate it. Go the Pies.
Go the Pies. Let's go.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. So Brendan's made a good point there. He's like, I think we need to break even with our Senate clearances. I mean, if we start the way that we started against Fremantle, I mean, they'll probably smack us in the midfield, which is something that we don't really want. Let's get to my big call. brought to you by the Hopper Bros Barbecue. My big call for this game here, it does involve Dan Houston, and I think it is Dan Houston needs to start in the midfield each quarter while we're moving the magnets and stuff around. I do think that he's the perfect type of player that can obviously help us out, his leadership, his experience and stuff, and I'd like to see personally myself him in the midfield more. I'm going to leave it there for tonight. We've covered everything that I wanted to go through. I thank everybody for your input and stuff like that through here. Make sure buy a hoodie, subscribe. Get a membership to the channel. Thank you so much to everyone who sent the super chats over and stuff tonight. We're hitting 900 subscribers, which is like amazing. So I can't thank you guys enough. So thank you everyone. Pies by 14 points against Adelaide is my prediction. My full preview for that game will drop in the next couple of days, probably on Thursday, and then we'll go from there. But thank you so much for joining me for the first official fan forum. It's been amazing. Love all your work, guys. And as always, make sure you drop a comment. You tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. Go the Pies.